Welcome to the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. Join strength and conditioning expert Roberto Parker as he shares his over 35 years of experience in training athletes and helping people achieve their fitness goals. Now here's your moderator, Chris Whiting, with Coach Roberto.
All right. Welcome, everybody, once again to the Health Detective Podcast. I know every other Monday you are excited for this podcast because you get to hear from the one, the only Coach Roberto Parker.
Yay.
Coach, welcome.
What's going on, guys? Yay. Good to be here.
So it's exciting enough, Roberto, when we have you on the program. But tonight, we've also got a special guest with us, and I'm going to let you introduce our special guest.
Well, we're going to beautify the podcast tonight with Dr. Heather Cardin. We need some beauty in this thing, so.
Amen.
I've known this young lady for a few years. We met about, I think, 4 years ago at a personal trainers conference over in Kansas. I went to some sort of workshop, and we met there. And we stayed in touch off and on through the years. And I followed her a little bit on Facebook. And, you know, she has her own practice in Kansas with her husband, Ralph. They're both chiropractors. She's very, very knowledgeable in the area of ketogenics, very, very knowledgeable. And she's also very knowledgeable in the area of functional health practitioner. And tonight she's going to talk to us about the pros and cons of hormone replacement therapy. And Heather has been doing this for 23 years, right, Heather?
Coming up on 25. It's hard to believe, but yes, it's been a long time.
25 years, and her goal is to empower people, and her mission is to help empower people to reach their optimal fitness levels. And I just want to welcome Dr. Heather, and I'm going to give her the floor and let her fill in the gaps and anything I left out about herself and her business.
Well, thanks for having me here. I feel super blessed to be here because I know as a community, when we can reach out and come together, we can help us all become a healthier version. And it does take a community to help everyone, again, on their journey towards better health. So this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And it's actually one of the most vogue topics, which we're going to get to. But just to add on to that, yes, I am licensed as a doctor of chiropractor, also an acupuncturist, applied kinesiologist. We do a lot of homeopathy. But as a functional wellness doctor, what we do is we look at the imbalance of the body. We look to remove the imbalance so the body can actually start to begin to heal itself. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We talk about hormones, about removing the interference, finding the real root cause of what's going on, not just giving another Band-Aid, covering up, here's a pill for this, but looking at the root cause, because we do know that our body is its own pharmacy when we give it the right nutrition or the right tools. I also am the mother of 4 amazing young gentlemen, ages 18 to 26. My oldest is currently deployed overseas or over in the desert right now. So I have to give a big shout out. I have 2 of my sons active U.S. Army. So
good for him. Thank you.
Proud of that without any tears, knowing how long that's a long time. It doesn't matter how old they are, you still do that. But this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, whether it's males or females, about hormones, because there is a lot of misuse going around about hormone replacement, whether it's males, females, whether it's young or old, whether it's sports or it's anti-aging or longevity. But know that our bodies are designed to actually anti-age and actually to make its own hormones. And for women, cycling is a normal process, and to end cycling is a normal process. There are periods where our bodies will disrupt cycling when we have to have interventions like, you know, a surgical intervention. But I know Roberto's got some questions lined up. So that's a little bit more about myself, but I'll let you fire away some questions because I can talk about this topic for hours.
Okay, well, I'll start off first, and then Chris is going to jump in and ask a few also. Now, this topic we're talking about tonight is more so for the ladies, but, you know, there are hormone replacement for men too, correct?
Absolutely.
But it is a little bit more prevalent among females. Am I correct there?
Well, I think it depends on what arena we're talking about. If we're talking about longevity right now, and we're not talking about transgender or athletes, then yes, and longevity for women, it's very popular about doing troches and doing testosterone implants and doing bioidentical hormones, because there is such a push for women to say, hey, I'm done having kids. I don't want to fix the imbalance of my cycles. Let's just do a hysterectomy. That seems to be a really easy route to go. Or, you know, I see the dysfunction of taking birth control. So I don't want to take birth control because I'm over 35. Let's just do some HRT and let's not fix the problem.
Okay. Chris, you got something there?
Well, I'm curious. So this is typically around menopause time, correct? That when we're talking longevity with women, hormone replacement, or is it not typically a menopausal thing?
So menopause generally used to be around the age of 50s, and then it moved around the age of maybe 45-ish. Now we're seeing menopause start about 30 to 35. So it's really started much earlier on, because we're seeing infertility happen in women who are around, 28 to 35. So even since I've been practicing 25 years, we've seen that curve really swing earlier into people in their early 30s. So menopause symptoms, or calling it perimenopause, can start 15 years earlier. And we see women go through surgical menopause sometimes with bad childbirth or labor. So we need to kind of probably hone in on the umbrella tonight. So if we're talking about women in their 50s, or again, menopause symptoms, perimenopause can start at the age of 30 or 35. Those symptoms can be fatigue, loss of libido, loss of lean muscle, or they can have, struggling with their weight. And really, it can be oftentimes fixed with diet and exercise. And stress is a huge, big culprit of it. That's why it's gotten so popular the last really couple of years. And there's some concierge studios or concierge facilities where people can go get troches, or they can get injectables and pick them up every 2 weeks, without having to go through pharmacy or going through their normal insurance to do that. Or they can get pellets put in their buttocks every 4 to 5 months,
Wow.
or a little bit longer. So yes, generally I would say when I went to school, or about 25 years ago, menopause would have been anywhere from 45 to 55, and it is much earlier these days.
I have to ask, why do you think it's so much earlier these days?
We have so many xenohormones, and we talk about hormones. It starts with cholesterol, because cholesterol breaks down into DHEA, which is our anti-aging hormone, which breaks down into testosterone, and then our 3 estradiols and our androgens. So first of all, we're eating a diet high in carbohydrates. Carbohydrates stimulate an estrogen hormone called aromatase. So aromatase is an estrogenic inhibitor. So a lot of times our diets that high in estrogen, or people have obesity, extra weight, stimulates an estrogen imbalance. We also have a lot of infertility issues. So infertility, people are taking a lot of infertility treatments. Once they're done with their childbirth years, they're left with some infertility hormone imbalance. So if they had problems getting pregnant in the first place in their 20s or 30s, then they're still going to have a hormone imbalance when they're done. Or if they had to do birth control in high school or college because they had imbalances with their cycles, they're still going to have hormone imbalances when they're done having childbearing years. They never fix the problem. So I think we found ways to put Band-Aids over Band-Aids, but we never fixed the root cause. So now we have a lot more options. So those options are doing things like HRTs in the form of patches or creams or injectables or troches or implants.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to ask a question here. When you're counseling people, I'm sure you, first of all, talk about dietary choices, lifestyle choices. As a last resort, do you ever recommend HRT if they just failed at the others and they're not motivated to do those things?
So number one, we do really good testing, because hormones change every minute, every hour of the day. So first of all, we do really good testing, and we make sure we know what people's outcomes are, because you have to change the body. You have to find what the root cause are. And there are times when, say, a woman has been in a car wreck, or maybe she had cancer, maybe she had uterine fibroids, and at the age of 28, she had to have her uterus taken out, and she had surgical menopause in her 20s. You have to do some type of natural hormone replacement. When you do a bioidentical hormone replacement that's plant derived, your body recognizes that. Something like Premarin, which is horse urine, your body doesn't recognize horse urine, but you can do natural plant-derived bioidentical ones. You just have to test it. And that means you want to test, every 4 to 6 weeks or every 6 to 9 weeks when you're doing natural bioidentical ones. So yes, there are times when you have to do natural hormone therapy, because you don't want a 20 or 30-year-old lady who had to have, for some reason, for whatever the case may be, had to go through surgical menopause at a very early age, maybe just a difficult childbirth, or for some unknown disease or some congenital abnormality. You need to make sure that she is still getting some type of hormones, but know that not just your uterus, but your cervix, your adrenal glands, all those different, in your breast tissue, they all secrete different hormones.
Okay. Chris,
Okay.
you got anything, bud?
I do, yeah. So if somebody goes I'm going to say traditional route with HRT, so they're getting a troche or injections or pellets or whatever, what are some of the possible side effects, reasons that they may want to stop before they make that decision to go that route?
Well, side effects could be happen very quickly. You can get bloating. If you have pre-existing heart conditions, you're not generally a candidate for that, because you can get bloating. It can actually increase heart disease. It can increase swelling. It can actually cause vaginal dryness or mucus secretion dryness. It can increase your chance of stroke, clotting, heart disease, increase your chance of breast cancer, male or female. It can increase your weight, even though a lot of people will take testosterone for weight control. It actually can cause an increase of fat when you're talking about estrogen, if it's a compounded one, but it can increase some of those main disease killers, which you're talking about, cardiovascular disease being number one, number two being cancer. It can increase both of those risks. Headaches, leg cramping, swelling, bloating, nausea, mood changes, anxiety, depression, insomnia. There's a long list of them.
Wow. Okay. That's impressive.
I wrote a few things down here, Heather, and I just want to run them off here and just kind of talk about maybe how they relate to what we're talking about tonight. When I talk to people, I talk a lot about, are they anabolic dominant or catabolic dominant? Meaning, are they rest and digest or more or fight and flight oriented? How it relates to thyroid, insulin, HGH, and cortisol. Now, I know this kind of ties back into what we're talking about tonight with the hormones. So can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So we have two different systems in our nervous system. We have the fight or flight, which, helps us pull an all-nighter. Your dog runs out, or your child runs out in front of your car. You can go swiftly run and pick up the car, pick up the child. Fight or flight is our stress system. It is our cortisol. It also causes havoc. And if it runs too hard, too long, we pull an all-nighter. We're not getting enough sleep. It causes dysregulation in our insulin, our cortisol, which is our energy system. Insulin also is a hormone that can cause dysregulation in also our estrogen. It can cause fat deposits. It can cause estrogen and testosterone to be out of balance. That's our fight or flight. We also have something called our parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest, our rest and repose, which generally our cortisol starts to cycle down around 10 o'clock. And that's when we start to really recycle and turn off our brain, so to speak. Our pulse goes down. We stop eating late at night. We also, that's where beta hydroxybutyrate, that ketone body, helps make the shift from sympathetic. So we rest or repose. That's where our thyroid helps turn that off. So you shut off the engine. So our body rests and repose. It starts to regenerate so we can start out fresh the next day. Well, if it never turns off and we're always in that fight or flight mode, we know what happens. If we do this too long, we know that we are like 7 times more likely to have car accidents. Our short-term memory doesn't turn into long-term memory. We know that if we aren't getting at least 4 straight hours of sleep, our hunger hormones are never turned off. So if we're doing short-term cardio or long-term cardio, the cardio actually doesn't turn around and eat our fat. It actually turns and eats our lean muscle. I can go on and on about that. I know Roberto knows a lot about that system,
Yes.
But even if you're not getting straight 4 hours of sleep and you're on that sympathetic, even if it's getting disrupted, those hunger hormones are not turned off, which is causing dysregulation, because carbohydrates, I'm trying to keep it not too sciencey, carbohydrates turn on that estrogen enzyme called aromatase. And estrogen. Go ahead.
I've got a list of lifestyle changes here, but before I get into this, I know you do a lot with the ketogenic thing. So I'd like you to just talk a little bit about that and the efficacy of that and how it could relate to a hormonal imbalance.
Well, I just say I do a lot with the ketogenic diet or low carb, and more so fasting, because we know if we're eating all day long, and the thyroid is a hormone, like if we talk about our pituitary, I'm a very visual learner, our
Right.
pituitary releases several different releasing hormones. So if someone's taking birth control, which can be considered, an HRT, so to speak, because you stop the brain from ovulating. You take an oral birth control, it says, hey, don't ovulate. Well, it tells your follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, also your thyroid releasing hormone. Your thyroid is the ignition for your body. Our adrenal glands are the engine for our body, also releases adrenocorticotropin hormone, which regulates our blood pressure, our sex hormones, our anti-inflammatory hormones. So if you're telling the releasing hormone not to release one thing, what's it doing to the rest of it? And so if you're going all day long and eating, say you eat from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., all day long, you're saying digest, 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 digest. That's that sympathetic thing. You're going all day long, all day long, all day long. When are you actually going to stop eating? And when can your body actually stop and then take the food or the nutrition that you ate and actually go and make the necessary hormones? Because your body can take healthy fats, like we talked about the healthy fats, avocados, nuts, and seeds, and break it down into testosterone, estradiol, estrone, all those healthy hormones, those androgen hormones as well. However, if it's in this fight or flight mode all the time and it's never can rest, digest, and manufacture, that's where the ketogenic diet actually comes into play, because you're eating healthy fats and they create satiety, which means you feel fuller longer. So you're not having to eat every 30 minutes, like when you're eating carbohydrates. Even if it's organic carbohydrates, organic fruits and vegetables and legumes, you're having to eat every 30 to 40 minutes because that's all the longer they give you energy for. On a ketogenic diet with higher fats, you don't need any insulin. So it calms down your cortisol. It calms down your brain, which is a master signal for your brain. It helps manufacture hormones, your estrogen and all your hormones. I won't just name one. They all start to become in a check balance situation. We
Right.
also know that when you're in ketosis, myostatin inhibitase is turned on, which protects your lean muscle while you're working out or doing your day-to-day activity. So you don't burn through your lean muscle. You actually burn your fat, which is what everybody wants as you age. It also helps protect your muscle mass, your bones as you start to age, because we know HRT can actually affect your bones in osteoporosis negative attitude or negative way. Sorry, not attitude, but so in a ketogenic diet, you actually eat in a lesser window because you're not as hungry as much, and you actually calms down your nervous system. So you're not in that panic mode. Your cortisol comes down to play. You don't need insulin when you digest fats, and it actually breaks down into those hormones. Body's not always in this fight or flight mode as you go through your day.
Yeah, I usually counsel people about intermittent fasting to do it on a daily basis to try to find about a 6, maybe an 8-hour window at the most to eat in. So is that pretty much how you promote it as well?
Yeah, all scientific studies show, and every major university is doing this with even firefighters who are in the most sympathetic situation, that 8 hours is optimal. Even on a standard American diet or on a carbohydrate diet, vegan, omnivore, paleo diet, in an 8-hour time frame, consuming food in a fasting or in a feeding window of 8 hours is when your body can do the best work. So it doesn't have to be perfectly keto, but just eat in that 8-hour window. And Dr. Jason Fung has a lot of the major research he's been doing over the last decade, but now major universities, the University of Ohio and Stanford, and the other ones are really coming about supporting that, about protecting our brains most of all, because when we stop eating, we can stop and take our short-term memory we do that day and engage it into long-term memory. I know I'm on a sidebar, so I'll stop there.
That's right. Chris, you got anything else there, bud?
No, that is all fascinating. So I'm taking it from what you've just said. You're a big proponent of, the ketogenic type diets, and the intermittent fasting. Will those specifically help with healthy hormone levels?
Absolutely.
They will, because you've changed your food routes. Instead of carbohydrates as your fuel, rob your body of the hormones, because when you're eating carbohydrates, it stimulates that aromatase, so you don't make as much testosterone. When you look at foods that actually deplete your body of testosterone, it's carbohydrates, it's sugary foods. So when you replace those carbohydrates on a keto diet, you're eating more healthy fats, coconuts, almonds, avocados, fish. When you take away those processed foods, when you eat those healthy foods, when you look at the food list that actually encourage your body to make hormones, you're going to actually help balance out hormones, male or female. But you see a huge shift happen by just changing your lifestyle, by eating those foods on a low carb keto lifestyle.
And
Yes.
you had said earlier also that exercise plays a role in this, in maintaining the healthy hormone balance. What type of exercise do you counsel people to do, or does it matter what type?
Do I get to answer this?
I mean,
I have a list. I have a list of that, Chris. So
oh, okay.
let me go to
I
this
would
right
love to,
now,
but I know what he wants to.
and I want to have correct this if I'm wrong in any place here. Now, number one, strength training, body weight training, or some sort of intensive weightlifting. Now, when I say intensive weightlifting, that doesn't mean maxing out and trying to hurt yourself, but finding a weight that you can use that's going to maximize your ability. It's going to challenge the muscle system and the nervous system. That's important. Now, Heather talked about strength training versus cardio a little bit earlier. Strength training is going to get more bang for your buck because you're building muscle. Muscle helps to will tone. Building muscle will help to strengthen the bones of the body to prevent osteoporosis. And muscles are the largest reservoir for glycogen. Okay, so that's important. The second one is consuming good whole foods. And the third one is sunshine. Get more of that. We need more of that, especially with the coronavirus thing going on. Being more active. Now, activity doesn't necessarily mean hardcore exercise. That means moving around every day, at least for a half hour to 45 minutes, maybe 60 minutes a day. Restful sleep. She talked about that. That is huge. Eliminate the blue light in your bedroom, the TV in your bedroom, having full spectrum lights on. I'd say after 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, try to reduce that. And avoid plastics, putting your food in plastics, microwaving, because that creates xenoestrogens. And the last one is hydrate, hydrate, hydrate with plenty of water. I believe too many people are dehydrated. So what do you think about that list, Dr. Heather?
You're absolutely right. Sleep is the secret weapon to our overall health. I've had women break a weight plateau by simply sleeping. I put 15 more minutes on the beginning, 15 more minutes on the end of their sleep cycle, and they've broken a plateau. So sleep is our secret weapon. That's when our parasympathetic starts into play. It's where we rest and repose. We know that exercise gets your lymphatic system moving. It gets your body sweating to clean it out. It turns on those healthy, happy neuroendorphins. So it helps with depression and anxiety. It gets your thyroid going. It gets your sex hormones going. It increases digestion, which is healthy for hormones. So when you can get the blood flowing to your endocrine glands, which make your hormones, it's going to help those hormones stay much better than just sitting there. American Heart Association, American Cancer Association says 2.5 hours at the minimum per week, in addition to your ADL. So absolutely right. You need to do strength training. It's not the rat on the wheel anymore. We were taught in the 1980s, because I'm an 80s girl, college and high school in the 80s. I'm guilty of running the marathons. I'm guilty of running 75 miles a week. It just made me a thinner version of myself, not a stronger version. And we talk about functional fitness as we age with hormones. You don't want to pile on fat, because we know that adipose fat or visceral fat, we call them TOFIs, thin on the outside, fat on the inside, is what's causing a lot of this cardiovascular disease. When you see great grandma is really thin, so she must be healthy, but that's visceral fat coming on the inside. Doing HIIT workout, so a nice big warm up of cardio for 10 minutes, do a HIIT workout like I have 4 boys, so the pedal to the metal, at every exit, get off, for 10 seconds to 40 seconds or 60 seconds at interval burst, then take it down slow again for a couple of minutes. Those interval bursts, rather than going 10 miles at cardio, is much more effective. And this has been shown by science to help burn off that glucose and glycogen. Because when you eat carbohydrates, sugar, processed food, it's actually toxic to your body. That's why the minute you eat sugar, your body sends an insulin to get it out of the way really quick. That's why it only lasts 30 minutes, because it's toxic. The glycogen that Roberto talked about, your body does not want to store it. It wants to get it out. The more muscle mass you have, the higher your BMI. That's why kids can eat a whole pizza, never gain a weight, where women in the menopause, like, I can't even look at pizza and I gain weight. That's called metabolic resistance. No joking. We've seen people look at ice cream. We've checked their blood sugar and it goes up because it's a neural emotional response. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You smell the Cinnabon or the peach pie, you check the blood sugar and it goes up because it's a neural emotional response. The brain cannot receive or perceive the difference between tasting it or actually eating it. So your blood sugar can go up in that response, and people who are really metabolically stuck. Exercise gets the whole body going, gets the glucose and glycogen out. And that's the key to fasting. When you stop eating and only eat an 8-hour window, you immobilize the glucose and glycogen. So calorie counting is out the door. You need to listen to your body, eat when hungry, stop when full. And that's the magic key. And eat whole food. Grab a protein, a couple handfuls of above ground greens, and put some healthy fats on top to make it taste really good.
Okay, now one topic, one of Chris's favorite topics. What about alcohol?
Oh, come on. Say it's good for this
So
thing.
this is what I say, is I say, no one is perfect in this world. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite because I've had alcohol in my life. But if you have a problem with sugar, and sugar is addictive to you because sugar hijacks your brain, whether you eat one chip and it turns into the whole bag, or one Twizzler turns into the whole bag, or one glass of alcohol turns into the whole bottle, and you've been really good for 14 weeks and you deserve a glass of wine. My thing is earn your carbs, is that if that's you. But if you have a problem with sugar, you have a problem with alcohol. And if it's worth it to you, then you're the only one who can make that decision. There are better alcohols to have than others. A lot of people have chronic fatigue syndrome. They have candida issues. You should not drink wine. You should not drink beer if you have systemic candida issues or chronic fatigue or Epstein-Barr issues with all the stress going on. But alcohol does shorten your sleep pattern. It does not let you get into that. So if you're going to have alcohol, have it on a Saturday afternoon and go for a walk, or go play Frisbee, or go play badminton, go play tennis, go.
There you go, Chris.
I don't want to say swimming because I don't want you drowning, but I mean, go do something fun where you're going to burn off the calories. Go dancing. Don't sit at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night and drink alcohol. Get up and do something fun so you're burning off the calories. And so earn it and deserve it. And then just set your parameters. So if you're drinking 30 days a week, a month, 3 days a month, say, you know what, I'm going to do this in moderation. I'm going to drink. But the rule of thumb is your liver can clear out 2 ounces 2 days in a row. And you got to stop and wait 14 days. That's normal clearance. Just like if you're going to have some special brownies from Colorado. I used to say this a long time ago. If I had a special brownie a couple of weeks ago, I'm still going to test positive because it just takes your liver that long to clean it out. So if you're having alcohol and like, man, I can have 4 beers and I don't even feel it anymore. Man, it used to be 1 a long time ago. That's probably telling you a little something about your liver. So if you say, I can have 4 beers a night and I can totally get up and go to work and feel good and I could probably still drive, you're probably telling you something about your liver. So moderation and earn it, but don't go to bed with a fatty liver.
Hey, great info there. I have a hormone question for you. So I read an article a few years ago, and it was in one of those trendy men's like Maxim or something.
True. It's all true.
Well, they were saying that human growth hormone gets a bad rap because, it's illegal in sports, it's performance enhancing, blah, blah, blah. But that if done properly, it can really increase the quality of a person's life. And I remember that these many years later because I thought, that sounds odd to me. So I would love to get your take on that.
So when you fast at 12 to 14 hours, your body produces human growth hormone. When a woman fasts at 24 hours, my human growth HGH increases 1,300% naturally, and males increases 2,000% naturally.
Wow.
So why do you have to do it with an injectable drug or something? And when you're taking an oral pill that has to bypass the liver at best, and this is whether it's a Tylenol or HGH or whatever, if you're taking a pill, you only are really getting about 10 to about 15%. And this is true with all pharmaceuticals and over the counter. You're only really getting 10 to 12% bioavailable that you actually digest and use. But if you fast, I do a one day fast. It's called OMED, 1 meal a day. So I used to do it Thursday to Friday because Thursday is my super busy day. So I'll have my last meal around lunch, and then our clinic closes at 1 on Friday. So I'll have water, some herbal tea, maybe some exogenous ketones, and I'll have that and have my next meal on Friday around 3 or 4 o'clock whenever I get hungry. And I made my body adaptable, just like our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. They didn't go to Planet Fitness. I'm sorry, they didn't do one-on-ones with Roberto. They looked fantastic, right? They looked Neanderthal. And they might not eat for 4 or 5 days, but the women still had to do their work and tend to the fire. They could still go hunt, right? And they could still pull a buffalo 500 miles if they had to. But women naturally produce human growth hormone, even at my age, over 50. When I fast, that's called longevity. You create that cycle with yourself. When you fast for 24 hours, women increase HGH 1300%. Yes, it's very valuable to your body. I clean out all that old glucose and glycogen. Male, 2000%. I've had males who we've done a lot of metabolic aging who used to start at age like metabolically, chronologically, maybe they were 50, metabolically, they were 70 to 80 years old. After 2 years of doing a practice where they're intermittent fasting 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, 1 day a week doing a 24-hour fast, and then 1 day a month doing it extended fast, 50, 60 hours, however they feel. You work up to that, and their metabolic age now is in the 40s, even though chronologically their birth date, they're in their 50s. Their hair is growing back. Their hair is not turning and coming in gray anymore. They have lean muscle mass. They're not doing anything different in the gym than they were doing before, maybe golfing a bit more. But you can make your own. So hopefully that answers your question. You don't have to go to the pharmacy. You just have to have some discipline, and you work up to that. You started a 12-hour fast, then a 10-hour fast, then an 8-hour fast, and then you just see what you can do. And a lunch to lunch is not that hard. You just tell yourself you have to have a colonoscopy and you can't eat or something, or you pretend. No, I tell my patients, I'm like, well, just pretend like you had to go in at 8 o'clock for a colonoscopy, or you ran late or something. But it's very easy to do. I have several YouTube videos that are free that talk about fasting, dry fasting, wet fasting, how you actually build into that. But Roberto, have you done some extended fasting?
Yes, I have. The longest I've ever gone is about a 48-hour fast.
Okay. I've done a 5-day. Actually, I did a 10-day one time.
I haven't done that. I'm not quite that bold, but I've done about a 2-day fast.
Yeah,
Wow.
I do a 72-hour 1 day a month. I'm actually 97.
Woo, 97
Wow.
hours?
I'm 97 years old. It was a joke.
All right.
I did a 10-day up in our cabin in Minnesota, but no,
Oh.
every month I do a 3-day. I do 60 to 70 hours one time a month, and I do a 24 to 27 hours one time a week. And then I do every day about 8 hours.
Now, I was reading some literature that when you do an extended fast like that, your body also produces stem cells.
Yes, at about 72 hours, you start increasing your stem cells and you increase new white blood cells at 72 hours.
So if you do that sort of application, who needs stem cell therapy?
Yeah, you gotta have discipline.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you just have to make sure on the days you have to just eat. You can't binge when you come out of that. So you have to roll in and roll out of a fast the proper way with good food, like you said, good clean food. And you have to make sure that, it's not for everyone, but you have to make sure that you're eating properly and you're getting your healthy greens in, you're eating good clean protein and good clean fat. You don't want to just come out of it and go to a big Twinkie binge. No, I mean, that's true. What'd you say?
Yeah, well, totally makes sense. And you actually made a really good case for not going to the pharmacy for human growth hormone, but creating your own. I'm curious, earlier, speaking of pharmacy, you mentioned in some cases, people do have to have hormone replacement therapy. You mentioned the plant hormones as opposed to, so do those come from the pharmacy? Where do you find those? Where do you get them?
You can, like, we have them in ours. A healthcare practitioner has to prescribe them, but Tribulus, 20 years ago, you couldn't get them on Amazon, and I'm sure you can find them somewhere, but don't go get them on Amazon. But Tribulus and Orchic, those are very common. Like Orchic actually is a plant extract. We do bovine insulin from an animal. So we get them from cows or from pigs. You can get Orchic, which is not sperm, but it's more scrotum, I would say, from a pig or from a cow. But Tribulus is an herb or a plant that was used quite often. Saw palmetto's been used for prostate or also for testosterone. People are very familiar with that. We use black cohosh or blue cohosh often for women. There's several different plant herb combinations that we use for estrogen imbalance or for progesterone imbalance. So yes, different plant herbs all the time that work very well because your body knows how to digest plants. The one thing you don't want to use is just be careful of creams. Creams can build up in your body and get very toxic because they can load up around the outside. So they have to be monitored. It's not something you just buy, on sale or because it had a ticket, or you buy it online and you just monitor yourself. You need to make sure you're getting it through a good compounding pharmacist or through a healthcare practitioner. But we do have those at our office, and we do metabolic testing. You need to check free and total testosterone. You need to check saliva and also serum levels of testosterone and estrogen. So example, if a woman is still cycling but having perimenopausal symptoms, we will actually do testing 11 samples throughout a 21-day to 34-day cycle, maybe even a 40-day if they're having an extended cycle, because your hormones are changing. I know this is kind of an odd cycle, but you'll see this day 1 through day 4. You just notice this is ovulation. It's changing all the time. So the amplitude, of course, changes. This is ovulation, changes as women get older. It just doesn't go straight flat line when you go through menopause. You still have some changing. So we take random samplings throughout that 28 to 40-day cycle, as other physicians do, and that gives you a better story of telling us where are the ratios, because the ratio is what is happening inside a woman's body. That's what the body responds to, is a ratio. Like the big event is estrogen surging. It tells your brain, hey, release an egg, or hey, ovary, release an egg. Once the estrogen's done that, then it's done. Once the eggs release its job, it's done. Now it's progesterone's turn to build a nice lining. So all that signaling happens, but the adrenal glands also have some noise in that, and they have some chatterbox. And if your body's in such an alarm stress or they're exhausted, then that doesn't happen. Or again, if you're on birth control and it says, don't release an egg, hey, ovary, don't do that, then they're just dropping the communication, what's happening with the other stuff. So there's a lot of things that can happen. But to answer your question, there are many plants that are very good. They're blended very well by top practitioners that are very, very well used, whether it's infertility, perimenopause, postmenopause, osteoporotic menopause, that are very, very effective. The body tolerates them very well. And we've seen this time and time again over the past 20 to 25 plus years.
One more question I have here, then we're running out of time here. Phytoestrogens. Now, things like soy milk, because I know that I've read many times, and in fact, you've talked to me about this, how they can really throw off a woman's cycle of hormonal balance because of the effect of the phytoestrogens in soy. So could you talk a little bit about phytoestrogens?
Yep, phyto is fight. It's just like your xenohormones. It is going to cause dysregulation. It's just as effective as stress or as poison. It's also going to cause your thyroid imbalance. So whether it is soy, whether it is dairy from a girl cow, or whether it is sleep disruption. So phytoestrogen like soy is going to cause an estrogen surge or an estrogen imbalance because the body's not for sure what to do. The same thing with dairy. When you're drinking dairy that's from a girl cow, it's going to increase your estrogen levels.
Okay, yeah, because see, dairy is one area that I think there's not a real general consensus on it, because if you go to Dr. Mercola's site and some other sites, they promote raw dairy, whereas you go to some other sites, they say eliminate it totally. So it's not a real hardcore consensus on it like there is on gluten.
So I would say, yeah, I was raised on a farm here in Paola, Kansas. My dad was a farmer. We milked 80 to 100 cows. If you go to Belgium or Norway and you could get good, clean, and you could get raw milk, not this homogenized and bleached and low fat, but lactose is a sugar in milk. We have a sugar issue. So even drinking a gallon of milk, you still have lactose in there. And we know that most people have a polydisaccharide deficiency. That's the enzyme. We drink milk, we don't have teeth. When we get teeth, now we can chew steak. So it makes sense biologically that as we get teeth, we shouldn't chew them. But yes, you can make some raw cheese. Butter is okay. There's some buttermilk that's raw that's okay, but not all this cottage cheese with the sugar on the bottom, not all the way we've done things. We have just adulterated our cheese in blue and yellow and orange packages. So it's easier to say, just cut it out because it is mucus producing. We have a lot of allergy issues. We have a lot of Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, but going back to hormones issue, it's straight from a girl cow who just gave birth. So why would you put that into your body every single day, or a male teenager's body? And the number one plastic surgery for males is breast reduction. So why would we do that? We know that there's a rise.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
So why are we doing all this milk and soy milk for males? Because it's phytoestrogen. And then we can go on thyroid, which is a hormone and causing disruption with the thyroid as well. But yes, so go to notmilk.com.
Okay. Notmilk.com. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll check it out. This has seriously been absolutely fascinating, and hopefully we can have you back on the show sometime, Dr. Heather. If someone's interested in working with you, if something that you said today piqued their interest and they want to do the metabolic panels and find out how they can naturally help their hormone levels, how would they get in touch with you? What does that look like?
Just call our office or email. We're at Cardin Center for Wellness here in Overland Park, Kansas. So you want email or info@cardincenter.com or phone number or
Whatever you want to give. Do you have a Facebook page they could find
Yep.
you on? Okay.
So I'm Ask Dr. Heather, ASKDR Heather, on
Awesome.
Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram.
So
or
yeah,
at the
let's
Keto
go with
Doc.
that.
Yeah.
So on all your socials, go to Ask Dr. Heather, and then you can get in touch with Dr. Heather and talk to her about, how she might be able to help you in working with her. So yeah, that's fantastic. I will be checking out Ask Dr. Heather after this. Roberto, no offense, but you've not been the main draw for this particular episode. However, it is your show, so I want to give you the opportunity to give your info as well if folks want to work with you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Heather for taking time out to be with us tonight. I know she's a very busy lady. She's always speaking a lot of workshops and seminars, and her time is very valuable. So, Dr. Heather Cardin, I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
My information is rwpsports@yahoo.com. And my phone number is 816-405-7703. I help people with individualized and group training, menu planning, and nutritional consultation.
Perfect. Well, Roberto, thank you. Dr. Heather, thank you so much. This has been enlightening and fun, and we'll be sure to get you back on the show sometime soon. For the rest of you, we'll be back in 2 weeks with another Health Detective podcast.
Take care, guys. God bless. Thank you, Heather.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. You can contact Roberto at 816-405-7703 or by email at rwpsports@yahoo.com with any comment or question you may have. Join us next time for the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. The Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker has been a KCTK production, produced by Roberto Parker, Chris Whiting, and Paul Lavoda. All rights reserved. For more information and content, email us at kctkradio@gmail.com.